Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. The body count associated with open borders continues to stack up. Border Patrol agent in Vermont is dead after being shot in the neck by an illegal immigrant who, according to sources, was a visa overstay. The Border Patrol agent was conducting a traffic stop in Vermont when he was shot in the neck and killed. The shooter, man who murdered the agent, also reportedly dead. And a woman was injured in the altercation. Her status and condition were not known last I checked. These are people that are, so why is a Border Patrol agent in Vermont? Because we have a northern border. And agents telling reporters that they anticipated some of the people here illegally, particularly those who have committed crimes, would try to escape north to Justin Trudeau land. Or maybe Midwest to BLM Brandon and Jelly Belly Pritzker land, where they would also find safe haven. And the conversations, do you want to have the conversation about compassion for all of the people who have been murdered or otherwise victimized, all preventable crimes, as we discuss? Do you want to have that conversation in Chicago and Illinois? Do you want to ask your neighbor you know to be an Open Borders, BLM Brandon, Jelly Belly supporter, one or both, about the Lake and Riley Act and why 12 Dem socialist senators in the Senate could bring themselves to vote for that act to deport people who are convicted of sex-related crimes? But your two Illinois Dem Socialist senators, Duckworth and Durbin, could not bring themselves to vote for the Lake and Riley Act, nor could any member of your any Dem member of your Illinois congressional delegation. Who's ready to have that conversation? Making the arguments, exposing the phony empathy that is much discussed by these politicians and very infrequently practiced. BLM Brandon, just like Jelly Belly yesterday, doubling down on sanctuary status.
Oh, yeah. He was saying that illegal immigrants are now indigenous people. Didn't you know that this land is their land, not our land? What?
Now, what I do find interesting is that when 30,000 Ukrainians sought asylum here in the city of Chicago, nobody said a mumbling word. But all of a sudden, indigenous people who are trying to get to a land that was robbed from them through colonization, they want me as a black man to be mad at them? You gotta.
He said those remarks yesterday at an MLK Jr. event.
Uh-huh. Mm. I mean, it's so ahistorical, it's so ignorant that I can't even bring myself to generate the energy to address it. It's sort of like blaming Richard Nixon for violent crime in Chicago in 2024 and 2025, which BLM Brandon also does. But this is who we've chosen. What's CPD going to do? You know, I got to think that Chicago police certainly know the stories, the horrific stories locally and nationally, all the crimes that have been committed. Now the story about a Border Patrol agent, so a fellow law enforcement officer being murdered in the line of duty, something that they face on a daily basis. I'm talking about Chicago police officers. They want to throw in with law enforcement, federal, or you want to throw in with BLM Brandon and Jelly Belly? How's that going to go when the feds come to town? Because they're coming.
The officers that I know can't wait for certain illegals to be kicked out, especially the one who broke a police officer's finger. Remember that? He was staying at the Elston shelter near Belmont and didn't want to listen to police and just grabbed her hand and broke her finger. And then what did they do? He was out on no cash bond, so he was out on the street. He didn't zero jail time, and then never showed up for his hearing.
What they want to do, what they want to see happen versus what they're going to do. That's the question I'd like an answer to. John Garrido, former Chicago police lieutenant in the 16th District, president of the Garrido Stray Rescue Foundation as well, GarridoStrayRescue.org, GarridoStrayRescue.org. John, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Boy, the most racist mayor in the country, I love how he wants to keep using the Ukrainian example because he's trying to say basically that a bunch of white people came in and it was no big deal. But now that it's brown people, it is a big deal. But the difference is those people were coming from an actual war, and they didn't walk across the border. They were flown in, and we knew exactly who each and every single one of them were, compared to now where they're just walking across the border. We have no idea who they are, where they're coming from.
Yeah, but the Ukrainians didn't take over police stations, and they're not begging on every street corner in the city of Chicago with their little children as props.
Correct.
Well, yes, there is an asylum program, so that's legal immigration. They had family sponsors.
Right.
It's
completely different, but he wants to conflate everything so that way he can make himself. He can't do a speech without bringing up race.
Right. We have to, the Venezuelans whose land we stole to create the United States. What are you talking about? It doesn't really matter what he's talking about.
Unless they came from Greenland, I don't know what they're complaining about.
Right. So what is Chicago police? I know Chicago police were reminded that they're not allowed to consort with federal law enforcement. What's actually going to happen between Chicago police and federal law enforcement?
So you said it basically. It's what they'd like to happen and what officers would love to happen compared to what actually will happen. The problem is we have a state law and a city ordinance that prohibit police officers from cooperating in any way, shape, or form with ICE, and they updated the city policy basically. And before, let's say ICE came in and they were going to do a raid, and they called and said, hey, we need some officers to assist us on the raid. Well, the old policy was a sergeant would go out and meet them and politely tell them, no, we're not going to assist. Now a sergeant and a lieutenant or above, a lieutenant or a street deputy, have to both respond out there and still tell them politely, no, we're not going to assist. And the problem with the way these are set up is that if any officer does violate it and does assist, they're going to try to make an example out of them and fire them. Mm-hmm. They'd be basically violating state law or the city ordinance in addition to department policy, and assisting some ICE officers on a raid would be, I'm sure they would consider an egregious violation, and what that would put the officers through. Even if they're able to somehow appeal it down the road and get their jobs back, all the stuff they would go through, I just really don't see any officers getting involved in that way. Now, I'm pretty sure that they're not going to use officers, let's say, pick any migrant shelter that they have set up right now. They're not going to line officers up right there and, create a barrier, because that would be in violation of federal law, I would think.
The Cook County Sheriff and the Cook County Prison, one of the things Tom Homan has said is, just generally, nationally, but particularly to sanctuary cities, just let us into your prisons. Let us into your prisons, and we can pick up people in this country illegally who are in your prison, so they're obviously a public safety threat. Is that something that you expect Tom Dart to potentially okay? Or maybe
No.
Ro Khan. I don't know if Ro Khan's in charge of that too.
I'm sure they won't, because they basically painted themselves into a corner and they're stuck on stupid, right? They were probably hoping that they could just make it to November and then they wouldn't have to deal with this anymore, but they didn't. So they can't cooperate in any way, shape, or form, because then it would make this new regime look good. Because let's face it, I think what's the last poll that came out? More than 60 or 70% of the people actually agree that they should, that at least those that came in within the last 4 years, the 8 million that came in, should go. But there's like 80% that believe the criminals, the ones that actually commit crimes, should absolutely go. So they're not going to open up.
And the 20% who don't are all elected officials in Chicago and Illinois.
Correct.
It's
Correct.
astounding.
Yeah.
So
that's it. That's it exactly. And when Holman was here, just to your point, exactly what he said is, if you don't let them do that, because it'd be super easy for Tom Dart to have his people say, all right, we have one. This is an illegal, because going to know, or at least ICE is going to know when they're in custody, and just let us know when you're done with them, and then we'll come and pick them up. Well, when you don't do that and you release them back into the community, now they have to go out and look for them. And he's going to send enough people. He's going to do it. He's going to send enough ICE officers to come here and go out in the community and do that. But what his one point was is that they're going to look for that one person that they're going after. But if that person is found with 5 or 10 others that happen to have been here for a long time, that are working, that are the good people that we want to try to protect and whatnot, whatever your position is on it, they're all going. He's not going to tell them just cherry pick and take the one. If they find people that are here illegally, they're going to take everybody. So do it in the safety of the jail instead of sending them into the community.
Well, exactly, the safety of the jail. And I'm also talking about that from the officer's perspective. Now they have to go bust down a door or pull somebody over, a dangerous situation, as we know, as we just saw again yesterday with that Border Patrol agent murdered in Vermont. And it's like, when do we hear more voices about this? You're purposely, don't give me all this nonsense about how you've got the backs and we're going to give the Border Patrol the resources and we support federal law enforcement and blah, blah, blah. You are unnecessarily putting them in harm's way. You are unnecessarily putting law-abiding residents of Chicago and Illinois in harm's way. Where's Kent and Zara? Where are other voices? Even brass breaking ranks. I'm not going to violate the law, but at least I'm going to speak out and tell you what I know to be true as a law enforcement professional. I mean, look, we should have people. This is a project for everybody. Talk to your village board member, your mayor, your county sheriff, your county DA, your county board chairman, all the members of your county board. Put them on the spot. Are you backing this play or not? Let's figure out who's on which side. How about that?
Yeah, they want to create chaos. They want this. They want to have people afraid to go to work, and so they can have the stories on the news. How somehow Holman is the big bad man that's coming in to scare everybody. Instead of putting them at ease and saying, listen, they want the criminals. They want the ones that committed the crimes. We're going to work with them. We're going to keep them out of the communities. We're going to do what we can to keep them. They won't have to do quote unquote raids. Work with them. And if you work with them, but they don't want that. They want the chaos. They're hoping, which is terrible, they're hoping for some chaotic situation to happen where they look like the victims. It's frustrating.
I mean, it really is. I mean, this needs to be like the Howard Beale moment, the call to action. All local officials, don't just put this on Brandon Johnson and J.B. Pritzker. Everybody listening has, lives in, if you're in the city, that's one thing, but you still have an alder human. You also, but in the suburbs and around the state, mayors, board members, county officials, everybody should have to put themselves on one side of the dotted line or the other. Let's figure out who is where. There's a project. Maybe I'll start it. John Garrido, former Chicago police lieutenant in the 16th District, president of the Garrido Stray Rescue Foundation as well. If you're looking for a best friend like I got.
Yes, he's your Yenta. He hooked you and Hayek up.
GarridoStrayRescue.org. GarridoStrayRescue.org. Hayek's getting fat. And
is he
can't
really?
Figure out how to.
Is it a glandular problem?
No.
Can I throw glandular problem. Can I throw out one thing really quick? I'm doing the Aon Step Up for Kids, and it's a group of police officers that are going to be joining in this, and we're going up 80 floors of the Aon building, February, the first weekend of February or something. So just wanted to throw that out there.
You're doing it?
Yes, I do it every year. I say I'm not going to do it, and then I don't train for it, and then I try to start walking or doing something a week before. I do it cold turkey. I have to watch the firefighters as they show off with all their gear on, run up the stairs past me, the 80 floors. I'm usually near death when I do it, but I do. It's a good cause.
Your lungs. Yes.
Garrido, you'll be able to pick out Garrido. He'll be the one with the oxygen tank trying to climb 80
I'll have the fireman calling me up, carrying me up the stairs.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So where do people?
Where
do people get information about that event?
They can go to my Facebook page, John Garrido. Just it's public. I'll have it posted there. They can check it out. John Garrido on Facebook.
And John, before we let you go, since you did, hook up Dan with Hayek at GarridoStrayRescue.org, What he said hikes getting fat. So what do you recommend?
Do they have like dog Ozempic or something?
Yeah, well, yeah, cut back on the treats, and reduce his meals a little bit. Or, here's what you do.
Exercising?
Exercise is a good thing, but even if you don't want to do that, take what his food is, like if you're giving him a cup in the morning and a cup at night, take a portion of his kibble and use that as treats throughout the day. So then he's still getting the amount of food. You're not giving him anything
then he's gnawing on my arm at night. I don't know. All right. Thanks, John. John, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Wow. Are you buying or are you selling? As this is being written, silver is up more than 50% in just the past 8 months. And gold is the highest it's ever been. Whether you are just getting into the metals, want to roll your IRA into silver or gold, or want to take some profits off the table, Fox Valley Coins is ready,